also had some you kind of learned to hustle from your other businesses you did prior to getting into filmmaking. So what were some of these other hustles you were doing, and how did they translate?
Okay, so I started off, I used to sell pagers, and
What's
I
a
had
what's a
little
pager, sir? What's a pager? So I've never heard of that. I don't understand
so
what
back
that is.
in the day, like what the doctors use, they use the little pager, and then
You mean
people
a
would call
beeper? You mean a beeper?
a beeper, yeah, and they would beep you, and you would go to a phone or pay phone, and so I
Well,
started
sir,
off.
stop right there. Payphone.
uh,
What is that? No, I'm joking. I'm
okay,
joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
yeah, all of this is like obsolete now.
I know, right?
Yes, and so I would I owned a pager business, a beeper business, and what I would do is I started off first initially with selling beepers out of my briefcase. So I would go door to door. I would go on the street and just sell the briefcase. I mean, sell the beepers. And then I decided, like, you know what? I'm gonna open a business. So I opened a beeper, actually a store. I opened one in Chicago. And then I had one. I had two in Chicago, as a matter of fact. Then I had one in Indiana. And so, and from that point, then I opened cleaners, and then, which was in my community where I grew up at, we opened a cleaner. So I learned the hustle from just opening businesses and having them, fail businesses, and just learning, just the hustle, having to go out to market the business, having to go out to talk to different people, to customers. So I took that same law or that same format when I went into the film business, and I just did the same thing.
You just hustled. You just a
I
straight
just
up
yes,
hustle.
yes.
Man, I tell you, sometimes I tell people, like, I wish you nothing but struggle when you're first starting out. I always tell people that, like, I really do, because that really is what makes you. It teaches you how to
Yes.
walk the path. And that's why in my new book, I use this example. Is like, that's why lottery ticket winners, 80% of them are broke and in worse financial situation within 5 years than before they won the lottery, is because they just got to they got the goal without doing any of the struggle. There was no struggle for that gold, and
Yes.
they didn't have the skill set to handle the success. So I always
Hmm.
sound like, I wish you nothing but a slow process going up so you can learn the skills you need. And you did that, not even in the film industry. You did it outside the film industry, but you brought it into it.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, I've told this on the show many times. I used to have an olive oil and vinegar gourmet shop here in LA for 3 years, and I learned a lot. You want to learn about hustle? Go to a farmer's market, and you want to learn about competition. You're literally 6 feet away from your competition. I'm not joking. Across from it, and a customer walks in, and you got to get them to come to your booth.
Mm.
That is competition.
That's
That is
competition.
that is
Yes.
hustle. And you got to look somebody else in the eye going, you're not going to eat tonight.
Yeah.
So that's what you, so I love that. I love that. That's where you kind of got this hustle. Now, before we continue, man, a lot of people are probably wondering, so why is this guy on the show? From my understanding, you have built a career on your own outside of Hollywood, making the movies you want to make, selling the movies you want to make, creating revenue streams for these films, and able to replicate again and again. And up to date, you have, I think, 19 or 20 feature
Yes.
film under your belt that you've produced, directed, written, and you've been hustling it the entire time. So that's why, for everyone listening, that's why I have him on the show, because we're going to get into how he's doing this, because you are, as we like to call in the business, are a unicorn, sir. It doesn't happen. It's very rare to find someone like you in the business, at least from my point of view, who I talk to so many filmmakers. You've actually led with the business, but you also have that art aspect of it as well. So can you break down how you created a sustainable filmmaking career? I know it's a big question, but do the best you can.
Oh well. So what I would do is initially, and it took a while. It took a while to build up my customer base, and I will say from 2005 until I say 2009, around 2009 or 2010, is I was working I started working for a furniture store after the Pages business went out. The cleaner business went out. I started working for this very well known furniture store in Chicago called Aronson Furniture, and I was selling furniture. But at the same time, I was building my customer base up, and I was shooting films on the weekends. And with a good friend Ricardo Islas, and who also has made about 20, 25 films as well. So what I would do is I would produce his films, and he would shoot. He would shoot and edit my films. So we would trade off. So we would trade off. And but at the same time, what I was doing was I would just get DVDs pressed up. And when I get DVDs pressed up, I would just go out door to door. I would go out on the street and I would sell the DVDs. So I would get like 1,000 at a time. And I would hold different events. Like I would hold a poetry event. And from the poetry event, I would do like a package deal, meaning that for $25, you get a DVD, you get some music, and you get like a plate of food. It was like for $25. So I would hold these different type of events, and where I would get 300 people to come out. And what I would do is when these 300 people come out, I would build a email list, and I would just keep them updated of what's going on, what I'm doing, and things like that. So it got to the point where I had this massive email list and this massive email list. So when I did this movie called Black Butterfly in 2009, it was a movie that we made for $9,500, and I met with E1, Entertainment One. I had a meeting with them with this guy named Alan Blackwell, and he was over like the urban division, and he was like, "Okay, how much do you want for the film?" I say, "Make me an offer." So he made me an offer for the film, and from that point, when he made me that offer for the film, I just took that, reinvested into another film. And
do you mind telling me what that offer was?
Yeah, he paid. They gave me $50,000.
Oh, it's fantastic!
Yeah,
you're living the dream, baby. You're living the dream. What year is this?
This was in 2010.
So the world was very different back then. The world was very different back then as far as content, and streaming was just stepping out.
Right. And so I don't know if you're familiar with indie flicks.
Of course I know. Oh yeah, right. I've had Cecilia on the show. Yeah,
Yes. So I worked with her when streaming was just. I put my earlier films on her platform, and she would pay. Like she would pay. And so those are some of the things that we done, that we were doing in order to bring in revenue. And so
you would do a sellout to E1 for that film. So that was $50,000. They own it, and that's it, is it licensed?
It's a license
for like 5 years, 7 years, or something like that.
We did it for 7 years.
So 7 years, but basically that covers it definitely covered your nut, and you made a profit.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. So we, and we made a profit, and then we took it and we reinvested into other films, and we just kept going. So after we did Black Butterfly, we did a film called Black Coffee, which is a film that we did, and it had a limited theatrical release. It's a film that we did with RLJ Entertainment. And so initially I was going to do the film with Entertainment One, but for some reason if there was a miscommunication, and then we actually did the film with RLJ Entertainment, which was great, which was cool working with RLJ Entertainment. And one of the things that I just want to stress is that don't do an all-out sale of your project. The objective is to to own or do ownership or to license your project. So even if you look at Black Butterfly, if you look at Black Coffee, those movies that I made like 10 years ago, I'm still making money off these films, because what I do is I can relicense these films. So because it's still doing well over at E1 is going to they relicense the film. Right. And so so the objective is ownership. And so that's how we were able to continue to make films, continue to this is what I do full time, and have a family and things like that. So
you can't play around.
We can't play around.
Yeah, the days of eating ramen in the one room apartment by yourself, those days left, because I think you and I are of similar vintages, if I'm not mistaken. So what we did in our 20s, we can't be doing in our 40s.
Yes.
So I mean, what I love about your story, man, is you're basically the personification of what I preach. I preach the long game. Creating assets, creating revenue streams, keeping ownership of your projects, being smart how you do it. You're doing your movies for a smart number. You didn't make Black Coffee, or you didn't make Butterfly for $200,000. like a lot of filmmakers would have. They're like, oh, I'm going to go make it. I'm going to make that's going to be the movie. You're like, no, this is one movie of a career of movies. I'm going to make it for smart money so I can flip it and keep going.
Yes. So I already knew, like, even when making that movie for $9,500 or less, I wanted to keep it for less than $10,000. I already knew, even if I go out and sell DVDs, I'm going to make that money back.
Right.
You know, it so happens that, you know, we had a trailer and E1 said they're interested in it and they picked it up. But I already knew, hey, if I have to do just self-distribution for the film, I know I can do self-distribution and make that money back and then some.
What I also preach a lot of and what you're doing is obviously you know your niche. You are creating a product for a niche audience that you are a card-carrying member of. Obviously, like, you know, like when I make my movies, my last two movies are based around the filmmakers and film industry. So I know that niche extremely well. So you know your niche very well, and you've built an entire business around that niche audience and creating being of service to that audience and filling a hole that honestly, you know, that needed to be filled with content that they're looking for. Very similar to what Tyler Perry has done. You know, Tyler's done it on a scene level. But again, that's the other thing I like to tell people too, is that you don't have to be a billionaire. You could just provide for your family and keep doing what you love doing. Isn't that the dream?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, because at the end of the day is, you know, so one of the things I love, you mentioned Tyler Perry, is the fact that he just opened his own studio.
Man,
you know,
oh, what an inspiration, man.
But he knew he did not deviate from his audience. He knew that he had that Black Christian audience, and what happened is that they continued to support what he's doing, and he never deviated from that path. He never tried to go outside of his audience, and so he just kept. And look at him now, you know. He has a studio. He's doing all right. He's doing okay.
You know, what are we going to do? No, but no, you're right. He never tried to make he never switched over to a mass media or you know, not a larger audience, but to cater to another audience. He's like, this is my lane. I'm going to stay in this lane. I'm going to do this lane really, really well. Yes. And I'm going to just keep pounding it for 20 years. And at the end of these 20 years, I'm going to have a studio that's bigger than Disney, Warner Brothers, and Paramount's backlot all put it together. It's obscene what he's been able to put together. And I preach that constantly, man. It's like, understand who you're aiming at. And I'm assuming when you're building these, when you were from your very first movie, you knew who your audience was. And you knew who your audience was. You knew how you were going to sell it and how you were going to recoup your money. Am I wrong?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because you were you were thinking like a businessman.
Yes, absolutely.